right, welcome everybody to our last live session for DES 113 Typography. I am Shannon McNamara, your graphic arts instructor, and we have kind of a lot to go over tonight. So let's jump right into it. For our agenda, we're going to go over some common typography problems. We're going to take a look at a PBS video. I'll have the link, and if we have time to it, we'll get to it. But if not, you can watch that on your own. The week 4 assessment, I'm going to show you how to set up your InDesign document, and I'm also going to show you some examples. However, the rest is up to you this week to be creative and come up with a great final project. And then we're going to have another fun quiz. So again, my telephone hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Please email me pretty much any time that you want to. I try to get back to you as soon as possible. Just remember that I am located in Eastern Standard Time, so if you're emailing me late at night or if you're trying to get in touch with me late at night, it's definitely best to send an email and wait for me to get back to you in the morning. All right, so all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday. Remember, your week 4 work cannot be turned in late. The course will turn into a pumpkin. It will close out. It will not let you in. Don't wait till the last minute to upload your work either. Think about it. Everybody in the entire school is uploading their final assignments on Saturday to have them in by midnight. So think of how taxing that is on the school server. And I'm not just talking about the School of Graphic Design. The entire school submits their final work on that Saturday. So please make sure that you're uploading early, just in case if you run into any lag time. Any redos on submissions that you would like a better grade for are due by Tuesday, so that's tomorrow at midnight. And I'm going to give you guys a gimme that I never give you in my courses. If you've missed a discussion this mod, you may submit that missed discussion by Thursday of this week. And I'll still take off the 5 points for it being late, but I will allow you to submit any missed discussions that you missed. But they must be submitted by Thursday at midnight. I'll add at midnight. At midnight. All right, so our last multi-session will be tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. And I will be in my own house this time. Last multi-session, I had to email people because I had to leave my house because of Tropical Storm Jose, which was making it extremely windy where I am. And we have a couple of trees that we need to take down. And I was a little bit nervous about those trees and having my daughter in the house. So I hightailed it to Central Mass for about 3 days, actually. I was there much longer than I wanted to be, but that storm just sat there and stalled out right off the coast, which is where we live. So I will be doing phone calls again during our multi-session next week. If you have any problems with any of your your designs, please make sure that you come in. And if you do need some outside help outside of those days, make sure that you're going to the Student Success Center, meeting with our learning coaches. That's what they are there for. All right, so let me pop over into the course for a second. For some reason, the images wouldn't load when I loaded the page. And still not loading, but the links are working, so that's really all that matters. Let's take a look at Christy Paulson's hours for this week. So she has hours Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and during week 4 there's usually somebody in the Student Success Center who can help in this course. So even though Christy may not have hours herself on Friday or Saturday, I can almost guarantee you that there will be somebody in the Student Success Center that will be able to help you if you do need some extra help this week. But if you do know that you need to meet with me or her, please make sure that you're logging in either tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. Oh, and now they're working. Hey. All right, so we don't have a discussion this week. However, we have our assessment and our career integration quiz. So let's take a look at week 4 and just kind of go over what it is that is due this week. Oh, my allergies are awful, so I apologize if you're having trouble hearing me. So again, our assessment for week 4 is a final multi-page layout, and I will show you how to set that up a little bit later. But make sure that you're reading over all the specs. It's worth 185 points, so definitely make sure that you're reading everything over. And if you have any questions regarding anything, that you're getting those addressed earlier rather than later. And hold on one second, there we go. And read over the rubric, everything, just make sure that you're really reading over things. And I will go over it with you this evening. Also, we have the week 4 career integration quiz. This is a really easy way to get 15 points, and the information is super helpful to me. I definitely read over every single one of your responses, and I've changed my teaching style in the past based on what students have told me that has worked and what students have told me has not worked. So I really do take to heart what you write. Please make sure that your answers have some value to them. That means, your responses should be 50 words or more. Don't put a shallow response of, I learned how to be a better graphic designer at the end. Really, really answer the question. You're doing yourself and me a better service if you do. And again, make sure that that is submitted by Saturday at midnight as well. And don't forget about your daily checkpoints this week. Finish strong. Let's get the best grade possible in the course and kind of close out Mod 9 on a high note. That's my best advice for you. So far I'm really liking what I am seeing for work, so keep it up. All right. Let's talk about design grids. And actually, before I start talking a little bit more, I am just going to grab a tissue real quick and blow my nose so you guys can hear me a little bit better. Hold on one second. All right. Sorry about that, but hopefully I can speak a little bit better and you guys can hear me a little bit better. All right, so let's talk about design grids and their place in graphic design. So design grids are not mathematical grids. They have gutters and type fits in perfectly against all of the edges. So here's a just a plain old layout grid. And then here is the information put into this grid. So what you would do is, align your graphics to the columns and margins and the page guides, and then align your text to the margin and column guides. So designing on a grid keeps everything in its place. And honestly, it will make your design better. It will make your design stronger. You really want to make sure that you're adhering to that grid. They definitely act as a tool to divide images and words in a satisfying way. There's a reason why a grid layout works. I mean, think of how nicely this is put together. And the designer really thought out each piece of this grid. And even if something was off, like if this image was bumped up and off of the grid, it would throw off the whole layout. So it wouldn't be as satisfying to look at as it is because it has been laid out perfectly in this grid. So why do we use a grid? What can't grids do? Grids are a tool to create consistency. They help you to design at a more advanced level, and they offer structure and a place for everything. And when I say design at a more advanced level, everybody has a computer these days. Everybody has access at this point to Adobe programs. You know, it used to be that Adobe programs were thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you were not a graphic designer, you were not going to be ponying up the money for these programs. When I first went to school, I couldn't even afford to buy the Adobe programs. I had to go to school, you know, and do all of my homework assignments on a computer at school that had those programs. And the first program I bought was Adobe Photoshop. It was actually Adobe Photoshop 4, and because I got it on sale, and then I bought the upgrade to Adobe Photoshop 5.5 because that's how you would have to purchase it at the time, with like upgradable discs. And then, you know, me and my friends would swap programs. You know, somebody paid for Illustrator and would let me put it on my machine. Somebody paid for, we didn't even have InDesign back then. We had a program called Quark Express. Somebody had paid for Quark Express and would let you use it because you could not afford as a student or even as a graphic designer when you were first starting out to buy these programs. And Adobe realized that they had a really big pirating problem and that they were losing the market share because people couldn't afford to pony up all of this money right up front. So they started their subscription process, which really has made their programs far more affordable. You know, I think I pay $35 a month for the entire Creative Suite. That's definitely, you know, it's a couple of coffees, you know, during the month pays for that. So, you know, anybody can purchase these programs and anybody can call themselves a graphic designer, but you guys are going to school to learn how to do things correctly and to learn how to design at a more advanced level. And I can tell you that anybody off the street is not going to know that laying out to a grid makes their design better and makes their design look more professional. So that's why we teach you this, and that's why we expect you to follow, you know, follow using a grid, follow using the character panels. You know, this is why we expect you to do it correctly, basically, because, you know, you are paying for an education to learn how to be a better graphic designer. If you walk into this school and leave this school at the same level that you entered the school at, what was the point of all of this money that you spent? So, you know, take these tools in these classes and make yourself a better designer. That's what you're here for. So there's a process with grids. There's a process of choosing a grid structure. You may be saying to yourself, I don't know where to start with a grid. You know, you want to think about the format, the size of your page. You want to define the type area. So that means looking at how much text you have and figuring out where to lay it out within your grid. You want to choose a font and stick to one for everything. You know, stick to one type family. You want to test your design until you're happy with how easy it is to read. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how cool it looks. If it's not legible, then the design is worthless. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just that there is a utility first before there is an aesthetic. The utility is that whoever is sitting in front of your work needs the work to be easily legible to them. And if it's not, then the design itself is a failure. It doesn't matter how cool it looks. So remember that when you kind of go off into the deep end of making things look cool, and I have to tell myself this all the time, you know, I have to sit there and just say, stop, just walk away from this design. You're done. You're not doing anything else to help it at this point. You know, redefine your type area, create division. And what I mean by division is, you know, create division amongst your text on the page, amongst your images on the page, amongst different elements. You know, if two elements don't go together, then there should be a separation of them, and then apply your grid. So when it comes to defining the format, that has to do with the size of your page, your final project specs. If your final project is 11 by 17, a double page spread, so that's two 8.5 by 11s, you would set up a grid to meet that. And here's one thing I can tell you based on this screenshot right here. You can see where two elements have gone off the grid in the screenshot. This is not my screenshot. This is like an old screenshot. But you can see that the header does not extend right to the edge. And you can see that this image is going to go right off of the grid right there. So these two elements aren't adhering to the grid. So you can have a single column grid, and that's your most basic page structure, is the single column grid. In this double page spread, the inside margins are wider than the outside margins, which create more of an open space at the spine of the book. And again, you want to be careful when you're using a single column grid, because you do not want your text to be more than 2 alphabets across. It just gets very tiresome for your eyes to sit here and go all the way. So you really want to pay attention to that, especially on an 8.5 by 11. Depending on your font size, a 2-column grid or a 3-column layout would probably be the way to go. So this multi-column grid is our 3-column layout. So there are numerous ways to use a multi-column grid. Here, one column has been reserved for just images and captions, and then the other one is for text. And then in this variation, images and text share a column space, and you can see that the image actually flows through 2 of the columns. So just a different way that you can set it up. In this one, a horizontal band divides a text zone. So this is that horizontal band right there. An area across the top is used for images and captions. And then the body text hangs from a column line. In architecture, a horizontal reference point like this is called a datum. Here's another one. This is called a modular grid. So this has technically 4 columns. So this modular grid has 4 columns and 4 rows. An image or a text block can occupy one or more of the modules, and there are endless variations possible with this. So you can have, one image go into all 4 blocks right here. You can have the text run across 6 of them, and then individual. So a modular grid like this, randomly enough, is really good for a web design layout. If you've ever seen, I don't know if it's still laid out this way, but it used to be laid out this way, CNN's website, they always have one big image that spans all 4 columns. Then they have one big headline that spans all 4 columns with a little bit of text underneath it, the beginnings of the story, basically. Then it breaks down to a 3-column layout, and then it breaks down to a 4-column layout. So as you're progressing down the page, information that's not as important goes into the smaller columns. It's just an interesting way of, using a modular grid. So here's an example of a modular grid with all pictures, and you have your one big picture that spans all of the columns. And then you have this interesting layout here. Next, choosing a typeface, kind of what we've, really been discussing this entire mod. Choosing a font, our final project specs based on your research paper. You need to choose that font. So whatever font you've researched is the only font you can use in your final project. If you do not have that font, or if you are having trouble finding that font to use it, please send me an email and I will see if I have the font to send you back. So I just want to let you know, that ahead of time. So if you're having trouble finding that font, don't just submit your assessment and say, oh, I didn't have the font, and you never got in touch with me. Chances are good I probably have that font and I can share it with you. So before you submit your work, Test, test, test. So check those gutters, check your leading, check your type size. The gutter on a magazine is the space between each of the pages text and is also the space between each of the columns of text in a single page. But this space is often referred to as the alley. So redefine the type area. Remember our ascenders, look at the top of the letters, such as L and K, and the ascenders are those strokes that reach up above the X line, which is taller than the height of the letter X. And then those descenders, so look at those letters such as P and Q, these letters reach down underneath the base of the baseline, or the height of the letter X. So you want to make sure that they are not running into the lines below it. You need to, when it comes to the font, you need to, for your final project, you need to design a 2-page magazine spread on your, using the font that you wrote your paper about in assignment 2. Yep. So this text box is poorly made as it is too large for the bottom of the text. If we look to the letter P, we can see that the box reaches too far down. This text box is well made. Its ascenders reach the top of the text box, and its descenders hit the bottom of the text box perfectly. So that's it. This is how we would define our text area. If you're trying to basically align things, you want to make sure that you're aligning to the top of the text and the exact bottom of the text, not just the text boxes. So now all that's left to do is apply the thing and we're done, the thing being our grid. So you have all of your information on the page. You can figure out, all right, how should this be? How should my grid be? Would it make more sense for me to have a 3-column grid, a 4-column grid? What is going to work with all of this information? Unless if you really understand how you want to lay it out, sometimes you don't apply that grid until the end. And then you really start to tweak your design and move things so that way they adhere to that grid. So here is a good video. I'm not quite sure if this was that video I was talking about. I need to double check. So it's a good little video on the grid. All right, so our final project, and actually I'm going to go over into the course and we can read this over together. So our final assessment for week 4 is we are going to have a multi-page layout. So in preparation for this project, make sure you watch this video because it has some great tips for laying out an article in InDesign. It's about 12 minutes long. So make sure you watch this before you get started. This project will allow you to visually demonstrate your, it's doing this again. Hold on. Let me leave student view. It's going to look a little bit weird for a second, but I can't deal with it bopping up and down on the screen like it did last time. So this project will allow you to visually demonstrate your understanding of what you have learned regarding typography, this module, including utilizing letter form to create positive and negative space, using word and paragraph, that should say word and paragraph character styles to create visual meaning and basic typesetting. It will also introduce you to an understanding of designing within a grid system. You will design a 2-page magazine spread article covering the typeface family you chose to research in week 2. The text from your article will be your body copy of this article. Use only the font family you are featuring for all of the text and design of your article. So let's say you chose to write about Futura. That means you can only use the font Futura, no other font in this layout. Your solution should rely only on type usage. So that means no images in this. If your report is on a font that you do not have on your computer, not all fonts in the list are available for free, but may have come with your computer, choose one that augments the one you reported on. So choose one that's similar or has something to do with it, you know, something in the same type family, or like I said, send me an email and I will see if I have that font to let you use. The article will also serve as an informational piece as you will present information regarding the history and background of the typeface, including who designed it and why and how it was used. So information from your research paper. These are your instructions. A typographic grid organizes text and images across a page of a document. A grid can consist of a single column framed by margins, or it may have multiple columns. When you design a grid, you typically begin with vertical divisions, those are your columns, and then add horizontal division or rows. So we're only using InDesign for this project. Our margins should be 0.625, 0.625, 0.875, and 0.75. Your article and spread should include all of the following components. So you need to come up with a headline, because it's a magazine. You need to have a byline, that is your name. You need to have subheads, your body copy, the content from your research paper. Remember, if you don't have 550 to 750 words, you're not going to have enough body copy. You need to have a pull quote, and I'll go over that, and you need to have a folio. Those are your page numbers. Your header or footer displaying the name of the magazine, typography, and somewhere in your article, you must display the entire alphabet in both upper and lowercase, plus numbers 0 through 9. And you need to use the regular book or Roman version of that font. So not bold, not condensed bold, not. If yours has a medium is usually the book version as well. I know Future is often referred to as, yes, this is a really awesome project. So this can either be done creatively in the graphics or simply as an organized list or line. And when I say graphics, I mean creating graphics out of type. No actual images can be used somewhere else in the composition as a supporting graphic. So 1/3 to 1/2 of your composition should be dedicated to a graphic display. This will be designed using only typographic elements. So pay attention to the following: scale or size, width, weight changes, angle or slope, so that's your italics, color, use of positive and negative space, our CRAP principles of design, I'm going to go over that in a bit, placement, and remember, do not distort the shape of the letters. That means do not squeeze them horizontally or vertically. They must be at horizontal and vertical scale of 100%. You're going to save your InDesign document as DES 114. It should be 113. Please save it as DES 113, Assessment 3. Export your InDesign document to a PDF, and that will be named the same as your InDesign file, but with .pdf as the file type. Your PDF must be exported with spreads enabled. Submit both your native InDesign and PDF file for grading. So you need to upload both of them in order for me to grade this. Best practice, always keep that native file of your project even after you have saved it to a PDF, because you're going to need this project when you take your portfolio or your capstone course. And the submission instructions are as follows. Our follow 25 points, craftsmanship is worth 100 points, and utilizing a grid system is worth 60 points. I swear, this only bumps around when I am trying to do a demonstration, and it zips up to the top of the page for some reason. I don't know why. And it does that on its own. All right, so let's hop into, well, let me go back for a second to here. All right, so I'm going to go over kind of like some of the major points, and I have some screenshots that are going to help you out. Oh, all right, maybe it's this course. I've never run into this in another course. It must be a bug in this course then, and that's a really annoying bug. It must be something like bring to the top of the page or something. There has to be something going on in the code. I know that they updated something in Canvas, and I get emails from time to time of people complaining, like other teachers, and it has to be something like that. All right, so remember, you can only use InDesign on your final project, and those margins need to be as follows. The top 0.625, the outside 0.625, the bottom 0.875, and the inside 0.75. Your article and spread should include all of the following components: a clever headline made up by you, a byline, which is your name, and I'm going to look up, some specs on things, and then a subheader. So your body copy is going to be that research paper. Well, if your laptop hates you, then my laptop hates me. It might today, honestly. So you need to have that body copy, a pull quote, folio, which are your page numbers, and then the header or footer must display the name of the magazine. Somewhere in your article, you must display the entire alphabet, so A through Z, in both uppercase and lowercase letters, plus figures, or the numbers 0 through 9. You need to use regular Roman version of your font. This can either be done creatively as a graphic where you design the letters, or it can just be an organized list somewhere in the composition as a supporting graphic. 1/3 to 1/2 of your composition should be dedicated to a graphic display. This can be designed using only typographic elements. So remember, no images on this whatsoever. You will lose points. Pay attention to the following: scale and size, that's your point size, the width, either expanded, condensed, etc. Weight changes, light, medium, bold. Angle or slope, that means italic, oblique, or cursive. I shouldn't see any cursive because we didn't have any display fonts on our list. Color, use of positive and negative space, repetition, rotation, and placement. Remember, do not distort the shapes of your letters. When you have completed your article, save or export it as a spread in PDF format, including bleeds and printer marks. This is the first time we'll do that. Here is a helpful screenshot for you. So even if you check to create something as a spread in InDesign, for some reason, page 1 does not set it up. Page 1 and 2 will not be set up as a spread. Page 2 and 3 would be set up as a spread, and so on and so forth. So you actually have to change something in the pages dialog box, which is you're going to need to uncheck allow document pages to shuffle. So if you can't remember what it is after watching the video of this, you can kind of go back to the slides and you'll be able to see what it was that you needed to uncheck to get that to work. Also, in your master pages, inserting the folio, what you want to do is draw a text box and then right click, and you're going to go down to insert special character, markers, current page number. And that's going to set that page number in InDesign for each of your pages. And it's just going to put it as an A, and then whatever page you're on, it will change it to that page number. All right, this is considered a pull quote. So that is when you grab one quote in your body copy and you set it apart from the rest of your body copy. So you can see in this pull quote, they did really big quotation marks to symbol that it's a quote. The font is much larger. than the rest of the body copy, and it also spans 2 columns as opposed to just 1 column. Oh, and I apologize. My allergies are absolutely awful today, and all of a sudden my eyes got so watery I can't even see what is on my screen. Oh, but anyways, I'll have to do this blind. So you can separate your pull quote with quote marks. You can use horizontal or vertical rules, or you can put them in a box with a background color. But whatever you do, make it contrast with the rest of the text so that the pull quotes are instantly recognizable. So I shouldn't have to search your design for a pull quote. It should be as, obvious as this, which is the only thing at this point that I can read on the screen because it is so big and my eyes are just so red right now. I know I need to take a Zyrtec. Although it's so late at this point, I wouldn't even sleep. All right, so before we go over the crap principles of design, I want to go into InDesign and set this up with you. So let's keep it here. And rub my eyes one more time. Oh, whenever this happens, it sometimes sets me down for the count for like 5 minutes. So hopefully that knocks it off. All right. So InDesign only, this spread is going to be 2 8.5 by 11 pages basically. So I'm going to do File, New, Print. I want it to be Portrait, 8.5 by 11. I want to check facing pages, and I want there to be 2 pages. Now I need to look at these columns. So my top margin is 0.625. And my outside margin is 0.625. Oh, and you're going to need to uncheck the box. My bottom margin is 0.875. And my inside, I believe, is 0.75. And it tells you to do marks and bleeds, but this doesn't actually have a bleed set up. So it's kind of pointless to do marks and bleeds, in my personal opinion, when there's no bleed set up. However, that is what the assignment is calling for, so I am going to follow the instructions. All right, and I have 2 pages here, and I'm going to hit create. I tried the bee pollen. You know what? It didn't work. I was really hoping it was going to be a cure-all, and sadly, it did not work. All right, so let's take a look. Even though this is what I was talking about, even though I set up facing pages, as you can see, page 1 is by itself and page 2 is down here. And you can see like they almost want to be facing pages because they're not stacked right on top of each other. So this is where I need to change. Yeah, it was local. Yeah, I can't win. I'm allergic to air. I swear. They've had me on everything. So this is where I want to override those settings, which is this screenshot, the allow document pages to shuffle. So right here, my 4 little lines in my pages, and if you don't have pages open, go to window pages. I'm going to click on those 4 little lines, and right down here where it says allow document pages to shuffle, I'm going to uncheck that, and I am then going to drag this page in pages and bring it right up here, and like you'll see that there's a bracket next to page 1 and let go. And that's going to move that page up next to page 1. So now I have a spread basically. This in here. All right. Close that up for a second. So now you can design right across the spread. So let's say that you're trying to figure out, like, you're like, all right, I really want to have a 3-column layout on one page, but I want to have, maybe a different column, I want to have a 3-column layout. You can set that up by going to layout, margins, and columns, and you can change the number of columns, so 2, 3, and that will add those guides in for you. And then you can even check enable layout adjustments, you know, kind of mess around with your settings a little bit. So that's going to take care of that. All right, so let's go back in and see what else we need to put in. So we also need to put in a headline, a byline, and a subheadline, body quote, full quote, folio. All right, so I want to show you how to do that folio too. So I'm going to go to pages again, and I'm going to go to my master pages, double click, and your page number should probably be no bigger than 8-point type. You know, it shouldn't be distracting on the page. And again, make sure that you're using the font, you know, all of the same font. So if you use Futura, then Futura needs to be your font that you are using on your page number. So I'm going to draw a text box. I'm going to change my font to Futura Medium, I guess. Change this to 8-point type. And I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to Insert Special Character, Markers, Current Page Number. And, oh, that's right. Hold on. And you're going to need to set it up. I always forget this. Not on the left page in your master page. You're going to need to set it up on the right page. Why? I don't know. You know what? I don't know. It's some weird thing that when you set up a spread that InDesign does. I don't know why it does that. So you can see once I added it to the right page, again, to the right page, it is now on both pages, page 1, page 2. So I've got my page numbers all set up. That's my folio. All right, byline. I know I was Googling this. So byline, your byline, again, shouldn't be, the font should not be that big. I would say, let's see what we can find for information. And this might be, byline examples. Let's look at some byline examples. So here's a good example. You can see like the size of your headline, and it's definitely right around the size of your body copy, but they don't have it set at 100%, like if that makes sense. So let's say that my my paper is on Futura. So my headline, before I do this, I'm going to show you a tip. So before you draw a text box, click on the text tool, go up here, change your font to just like the regular version of the font that you plan on using. So if I'm going to do Futura, I'm just going to set this to Futura Book. So every time I draw a text box, I'm already in the Futura font. This will be super helpful to you. You still need to use character styles and paragraph styles to make sure you have consistency, kind of like you did last week. But this is really going to help you out if you're already at least, you know, have that font set as a default. That'll default your font for you. All right, so let's say Futura is my font that I chose, and maybe I want to do something crazy like have it extend across. Oh, nope. Come on, quick keys. I forgot my quick keys. Let's say I want to have it extend all the way across the top. I don't know yet if this is a good design decision. And here's another tip too. If you want things to extend, you may have to extend your text box to get your type to go right to your edges. There we go. So here is you know, my headline. My byline, I'm going to say is, I'm going to go with 12-point type. But I might not want this to be 100% my text. So I might want this to kind of be like maybe 80% black. So that way my body type is, you know, 100% black. You know, just some different design decisions I can do. And then maybe, you know, I start to think about my grid. Maybe I want certain blocks of text to be actual squares or something. So like, what if I draw a square holding down the shift key and give it a border just to see where it is? And I want to make sure that it has the same amount of space top to bottom. So this is how I use squares to do things like this. And drop a grid line. You know, maybe this is how I start to set up my grid. And I would need to bring these up. And for my byline, to will need to adhere to this part of the grid. And just draw a rule. And do the same thing over here. You'll notice if you draw a rule on page 1, it doesn't extend over to page 2 in your spread. Yes, you can use color. Yep, you can use color. And then I'm gonna just make a copy of this. I'll select everything. I'm holding down Option, dragging these boxes over here. And drop in a rule again. There we go. And just delete my boxes. So let me see if I can just kind of show you. So here is kind of my grid that I've started. Oh, I forgot to drop a line at the first one, but I moved this to the top, so I know it's right here, which is 2.9. You know what? We're just going to go with 2.95. It's probably correct. And over on page 2 of the same thing. 2.95. There we go. All right. So, you know, maybe I put, you know, some letters or something, like the letter A, nice and big in this box, because, you know, Futura is kind of a very geometric font. Maybe M. I'm trying to think of a letter that might fit. You know, maybe I'd start to do something like this. You know, just some ideas to kind of break up, you know. You know, just some ideas. Q, you know, something like this, and then my body copy flows around this or something. Like that could be something interesting, where I can have this, you know, kind of like square grid type thing going on. what else needs to be part of this? I need to show you how to do it. Let's see. Oh, a pull quote. So maybe when I'm doing my pull quote, I hang my quotation marks outside of the grid. And again, remember, oh, we went over this last week, that there is a specific way to do quotation marks for each font. Let me pull up our slideshow from last week. Probably easier to just go into the announcements, because they look different, and as a graphic designer, and especially where this is a design piece, you want to make sure that you have those actual real quotes. Wait, there we go. Slides. I forget what the key codes are. I haven't done them in a while. Nope. I remember we went over this. Thought it was in here. Here we go. All right. So single close quote, shift option and bracket. Single open quote, option bracket. I need double quotes, I think. Double open quotes, option left bracket. All right. Option left bracket. So if I really want to make this pull quote stand out, you know, I'm gonna hang it pretty big outside of my, I'm gonna like move it right to the edge of my grid. There we go. Right on the right there. All right. And if that's 68, I'll probably make my quote 34. And then end with a quote. Maybe right up to the edge over here. And let me see what that was. Shift option left bracket. So shift option left bracket. I know you think that it doesn't matter and make a difference, but you can see how it's thicker here, thinner here, and that your end quote, thicker at the top, thinner here. So those quotes were actually designed in a very specific way. All right, so that's a pull quote. What else do I want to show you? Oh, header or footer displaying the name of the magazine, Typography, may accompany your folio. So you would definitely want to put this in your master page. So maybe, and I think it should go up here, right outside the margin, but I would have it rest right on the top margin. And it doesn't need to be that big. I'm going to do extra bold, maybe 20, maybe 30 point type, and maybe not 100%. I don't want it to distract from, you know, maybe I make a pink and make it 50% or something, so it doesn't really distract from my design. And again, I'm going to bring it down right on the line there, because I'm Making sure I'm right on my grid, lined right up. If you're not sure if it's lined right up, draw up a rule. You know, use your XY coordinates up here. There we go. And then maybe I carry this over to the bottom of this page, page 2. Again, moving my type right onto the line. And, whoops. Whoops, 2, 5, 2, 4, 2, 4, 5. And each font will be different, how close you have to get it to be. And, you know, is it crazy that I'm getting that in, you know, in depth? But hey, it's going to make my design much better. Back to my page. Oh, I forget that it does this. Hold on. The stupid spread. Oh, I can set up a separate master page, but that's pretty silly. So what if you really want, you know, something on to show up differently on the left page of page 1, I would just take it off of your master page totally and design it. Whoops. Just put it on your actual page. I forget that it does this with spreads. Edit, paste in place. Really? And I won't go through all of that again with you. You can just kind of lock it. So I won't be too particular about that. I know whenever we set up these spreads, it gets a little bit, yeah, it treats me, yeah. InDesign's like, oh, no, I will give you problems, because it's not very often I set up a 2-page spread like this. So all of my tips and tricks, I have to like I'm delving back into the recesses of my mind right now to try to give you all of my tips and tricks that I have. And then design that alphabet. All right, so let's take a look at some examples and go over those crap principles of design, because you need to do that too. So this was that pull quote. All right, so the first of our crap principle of design is the C, which stands for contrast. So that means if 2 elements are different, make those differences striking. Really bump up that contrast. You know, you could do it if you chose to not put in any color into this piece, then your black and white needs to be the color. You need to really bump up that contrast then between the black and white in your page. Repetition, so that means using repeated elements to direct, organize, or structure. So you can use lines for repetition. You can use letters to create repetition. There's so many different things. Yes, you can use more than 3 colors. Just make sure that, you know, you want to make sure that the color enhances your design. You're not just adding color to add color. Alignment, line up elements to create visual structure. So again, that's where our grid comes in. Proximity, so clump together related elements so that their spatial relationships organize and emphasize. And here's some more tips and tricks. Limit the number of fonts you have on your page. We can only use 1 font for this assignment, but, you know, limit the number of variations of that font. You know, you don't have to, just because there's a bold, italic, extra bold, condensed, light, you don't have to use every single one. Think of each of those as being their own font in this scenario. Text on top of a high contrast background is difficult to read, so that's when your colors come into play. You know, red text on a green background is difficult to read. Try to be careful that you don't have borders on any of your colors. A black border with black text, that can be difficult to read. It just kind of creates a line, so you just want to look over those things. I always say this, use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Simple can always be a beautiful design. Remember that. Colors, limit your colors. Pick a color scheme. Stand out. Make sure your design is unique, distinct, and easily recognizable. You know, think about Nike, Apple, and Volkswagen. They have very simple yet very recognizable designs. All right, so here's some examples of a double page spread using typography and grids. Here's an example. So we've got the letters, the alphabet, and numbers, a big C, the name of the font, a nice pull quote here, and look at how this breaks the grid. It's 2 columns, but it kind of breaks over here. Yes, you should see, can you see it now? Is anybody else having trouble seeing? Lawrence, are you having trouble seeing? Yeah, because I'm not having trouble seeing it on my iPad either. You might want to just log out, you know, maybe try to bump out of the room and come back in and see if that works. Okay. Yeah, so this is a great layout here. And the alphabet's there, and it's now become integrated with the design. So really, really, really cool layout here. Here's another good layout. Not exactly our assignment, but still a really good double page spread. Here's another great layout. Look at the letter O, how they're using the white, the negative space, and how this in the black bar all starts to come together. Like this is great. I love the feel of this. This one, not 2 fonts, so obviously not the same as our assignment, but still a really cool layout. And this one, I love this one. I love how the letters have been, you know, like kind of covered, and you can still tell exactly what this says. I think that this is a beautiful layout. Nice and clean. This is what I mean. This is an extremely simple and clean design, yet it is so visually striking. Another great layout. I like this idea of using the font to create that, like the eye chart. That's pretty cool. And look at this, 2-column design. Text here, big graphic with text in the middle. That's really thinking about that grid and, you know, thinking about the position of everything in that grid. So think outside of the box of that grid. You know, you don't have to have a headline. No, we end up losing that slide. There we go. You don't have to have a headline big that runs at the top of your page. You know, why can't you Run your headline like this, right within column 1 of this 4-column design. Do something like this. Oh, jeez, come on. Uh, 49 it'll have to be. There we go. All right. Something kind of crazy like this, and then maybe just gonna lock these so I don't accidentally. Fill with placeholder text. Here we go. All right. So, maybe my grid kind of goes somewhat like this or something. Kind of crazy, kind of different. And then I have my alphabet down here. Maybe this quote stays within the margin. And this moves over right to the edge. Maybe I do something like that. And then I put my alphabet right here. Just kind of thinking on the fly here. Maybe I have one letter that breaks the grid. I don't know. Something kind of crazy. Think outside the box. I don't really like that, but you can kind of. This is where like I said, kind of keep working with your grid. Test it. Maybe I start to create something with the letters even. Kind of create a letter. So many different things you can do to create like an image right out of your text. I don't know, something like this. Something kind of crazy and nuts. You know, just make sure you're adhering to your margins, obviously. There, you know, I mean, who knows? Who knows? You can do pretty much anything to make yours stand out. Yours should stand out from the crowd. Times New Roman is not going to be a challenge. I mean, look at this layout here with the serif font. You know, you just need to think like your font is a serif font. Your font has feet. Your font has, you know, lovely like little bulbs at the end of each of your letters. Those are all design elements on their own. You know, Times New Roman is actually a very well drawn and beautiful font. So don't think, if anything, I think a serif font might be less of a challenge when it comes to, you know, designing something beautiful with that font because you have the feet. Yeah, I think that like kind of the world is your oyster with Times New Roman. I think you know, I think that this layout right here is gorgeous because of this letter G right there. You know? So yeah, I mean, each of the fonts that you don't worry about it. Look at examples. That's why I kind of gave these examples. You know, look for examples of two-page spreads. Don't copy something exactly, but look for inspiration. You know, believe me, my idea to create that Futura thing kind of came from this. So, you know, look for inspiration everywhere. You know, if there's so much good design out there, you know, that you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Just make the wheel your own. All right, so let's do a little review quiz just for fun. And you guys can type your answers in the chat. And for those of you at home, you can write down your answer or just think it in your head, and then you'll find out if you got it right or not. So number one, common typographical problems is a common typographical problem is the lines of text are too long. The maximum characters within a body of text should be blank to blank characters, A, B, or C. And we shall see the answer. If you picked C, 65 to 75, you are correct. It's roughly 2 alphabets long. Can you identify what is wrong with the circled type below? A, the color is too bold. B, it's a script font which uses all caps. Or C, there's a spelling error. If you said B, it is a script font that uses all caps, you are correct. You can see how difficult that is to read. What is the name of the classification of typefaces that looks like handwriting or calligraphy? Excuse me. A, serif. B, slab serif. C, display. Or D, script. Yes, yay, you guys. D, script is correct. These are typefaces that have the most diverse and prominent personalities. So A, serifs, B, slab serifs, C, display, or D, script. I wish I had prizes to give out. So A, B, C, or D? If you said C, display, you are correct. So the most personality. They can convey a sense of authority in the case of heavy versions such as Rockwell, but they can also be quite friendly, as in the recent favorite Archer. So is that A serif, B, a slab serif, C, a display, or D, script? And the correct answer is B, slab serif. Rockwell is a very bold slab serif font. It's very heavy, and it doesn't look very friendly. All right, typeface choices. So remember your classifications and their personalities. Serifs are typefaces that have little feet and appear traditional, stable, it must be their feet, practical, serious, mature, formal, scholarly, corporate, and businesslike. Slab serifs are a class of serified typefaces, but their feet are squared off at the bottom. They are considered modern, but they tend to be bold, harsh, rude, assertive, coarse, and more masculine. Then we have the sans serifs, which means without feet. Those are typefaces without little feet, which can be harsh or have an understated personality. However, they do tend to reflect a contemporary, bold, clean, and sometimes sleek, elegant look. Then we have our script fonts. So those are the typefaces that look like handwriting or calligraphy. They can range from being very casual to very elegant. They have soft, organic, and humanistic qualities that make them warm in personality, and they often have a rhythmic, high energy to them. Then we have our display fonts. You guys are killing me in the chat today. Our typefaces, the display typefaces, have the most diverse and prominent personalities. Their character forms often suggest a personality relative to a genre, era, or a time period. All right, so let's see if we remember our anatomy of a letter. So, number one, which is right here, this is this part. What is number one? It's okay if you don't remember these. This was a bit obscure. It is a bracket. Number one is the bracket. All right, number two, which is right here, that little bulb at the top of the letter. And number two is called the terminal. And then number three is the inside right here, the inside of the letter O. And while you think of number three, I'm going to grab another tissue. And number three is the bowl. And number four, right here, this part that comes down from the baseline. Also known as the only one from this part of the quiz that I will remember. Nope, the tail is actually right here, which is the bold kind of down at the bottom. This is the descender because it descends. That's the only reason I can remember it. I can never remember all of these. So don't worry, it's not you. Like if I had to take this, I would know that these were the serifs. I might have gotten bowl and I might have gotten stem and the crossbar. I actually had to take a quiz like this where each part of the letter was circled and I had to name it. I had to know all of these. Yes, exactly. I had failed that with flying colors as well. I also took a typography class where the teacher held up a letter, like the letter H right here, and you had to name what font that was. If you want to talk about a difficult typography class, me and that teacher did not get along. I did not do well in that class. It was, I was actually, I used to be very surprisingly good at guessing fonts because I worked at a newspaper and I had been doing design for a couple of years at that point. So if they were well-known fonts, I was actually pretty good at guessing them. But you know, it's definitely different when you're in a classroom setting and you have a teacher who comes up to you with just one letter and they're like, "What is this font?" And you're like, "Ah!" Yeah, is it Futura? I don't know. You know, and he would pick sometimes the most obscure fonts too. I didn't enjoy his class. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, he was. Yes, he definitely was, and him and I kind of had it out. All right. So, what type of alignment is this image below demonstrating? I want you to pay particular attention to the right-hand side in whether or not it rags. So, is it A, left justified, B, justified, C, centered, or D, right justified? A, B, C, or D? It is justified, and that what that means is it basically pulls the line right up to the edge. So you can see that there's definitely a difference in the spacing from line to line when it does that. All right, now this one, you'll notice how it kind of rags like this. So is this left justified, justified, centered, or right justified? A, B, C, or D? If you said A, left justified, you are correct. So that means basically when you set it to the left. So everything set to the left. The way to remember it is the justified is the line that doesn't rag at all. So this is how you can remember it. So if the left-hand side does not rag at all, it has justified over to the left. So it's all in a line to the left. If it's just plain old justified, that means it's all lined up on the left and the right. And I won't tell you the other two. Well, oh, I can. All right, I didn't know if they were part of the quiz. Centered means that there would be a rag on the left and a rag on the right, and you know it's centered in the middle. And right justified means that your line of text would butt up to the edge over here, and your rag would be on the left. So it's justified to the right of the page. Justified kind of stands for lining up in a way. It's lined up to the right of the page. It's lined up to the left of the page. It's justified. It's lined up to the left and the right. And then centered, it's not lined up anywhere. All right, so what is the image below demonstrating the 4 different paragraphs? Is it line spacing, kerning, tracking, or justification? So A, B, C, or D? And if you said a line spacing, that is correct. So that's the amount of, you can see that the space between each line of text is getting bigger as it goes from paragraph to paragraph to paragraph. Next, blank is adjusting the space only between characters. Is that A, leading, B, tracking, or C, kerning? A, B, or C? I used to get this one wrong all the time too. I still sometimes have to Google it. And the answer is C, kerning. That's adjusting just the space between the letters. All right, blank is adjusting the space between letters in an entire group or paragraph of text. So that's when you grab all the text at once and then you adjust the spacing. So, you know, everything's -10. So is it A, leading, B, tracking, or C, kerning? If you said B, tracking, you are correct. And blank, this one might be different. The blank dash can be used in place of a colon, commas, and parentheses. Yeah, it's kind of like taking the SATs, right? The correct answer is the M dash, which is that really long one. The N dash is a little bit longer than a hyphen, and the hyphen is the shortest. This one's different. That one was difficult. All right, this one's going to be difficult as well, but we already know it's not the M dash. So the blank dash usually replaces the word to between numbers. So B or C? And it was B, the N dash. All right. There's only one option left. Two words brought together as a compound may be written separately, written as one word, or connected by. And if you said C hyphen, you are correct. And you win the entire thing. And that was the last one. I was gonna say, you win the entire thing because it's the last one. All right, so is there anything that you would like me to go over, you guys, before we end tonight? Because we still have a little bit of time, so if you want me to go over and show you anything else, I will definitely show you something else. Anything that you might just need some clarification on? Hold on one second. I am going to show you one thing. All right, so when we make a PDF of this, file, export, saving it to week 4. Again, the naming convention in here is incorrect. Please name it DES113, not DES114 when you're copying and pasting it. I mean, I'm not going to take off points, but just if you can remember to do that. And the reason why I say if you can remember to do that is because I will sit here and be like, wait a minute, DES114, this isn't the right thing. I'll end up completely confused. That's McNamara. So I'm making my PDF. I click save. Under marks and bleeds, you need to do all printer marks and use document bleed settings based on your instructions, even though we did not set up a bleed. under general, you need to do, hold on a second. Impression, output, advanced. 1 second, I have to Google this. Let me look this up. Go to export Adobe PDF window. In the general tab under all pages and range, there's a tick box for spreads. I know, general. Oh, here we go. All pages, do spreads right here. I was like, I know I'm looking right at it. That is going to put together a 2-page PDF as a spread, then export it. And if there's overset text, if you see that, make sure you fix it before you export your PDF and hit export. Save it. As well. My beautiful masterpiece that I've created with you. So double check those PDFs to make sure that you have it set up as a spread. You'll be able to tell the difference because it goes side by side right here, set up as a spread. If I didn't have it set up as a spread, this is what it would do. Name it no spread so I don't override the other one. You'll see the difference. Yeah, page 1, page 2. So not set up as a spread. So again, what you're going to need to do is when you go to export it, under, in general, pages, range, all pages, instead of doing pages, you want to change that to spreads right in here, and then click export. And make sure you have those marks and bleeds turned on too. And close it out. All right, so again, I'll just show you the difference. Spread, not a spread, and I have to scroll and I can't see your whole design. So make sure you got set it up correctly. This looks much better. That's actually, I need to fix right here, but that actually kind of came out a little bit cool. Yeah, look at me. All right, so if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please make sure that you come to the multi-session or you go visit the learning coaches. Please, if you've missed any of your discussions, I went over this at the beginning, you can submit your missed discussion post, but you only have up until Thursday to submit that. I will accept late discussion posts for like the first time ever, but only until Thursday. If you want to resubmit any of your assignments or your assessments for a higher grade, you have until tomorrow at midnight, and you can only resubmit once. And otherwise, please have some fun. Well, if that's true, I would talk to your AD about that, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you won't go there. That's all I'm going to say. You know, that you really need to go there if you need some help. You know, you can, if you see that there's a person that you don't want to work with there, that's completely fine. And you can just, you know, ask for somebody else. But you're really going to do yourself a disservice by not going, you know, and I don't want to see that. You know, that's what that's there for. But if you do need any help, please get in touch with me. Make sure you email me and make sure that you have some fun with your designs this week. This is a really cool project, so I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And remember, this is something that you're going to use for your portfolio. This is something that you're going to use for your capstone project. So really put some time and effort into it and really have some fun with it. Get creative with it. Look through some examples if you need some inspiration. And just have some fun. All right, well, thank you so much, guys, for coming to the live session tonight and for taking part in my quiz, my fun little quiz here. And I've had a really great time this mod with you all, and I hope to see you guys in another class sometime. All right, have a great night.